what happened. I've been so good about sharing everything before I go live. I really winged it on this one. Yep. There's one. Okay. Okay. I'm back. Hello. Welcome to Mornings with Paranormal. Cheers. Gotta stay hydrated. So important. So today, I already know what I'm wondering, unless you can in chat come up with something more interesting. I was watching Buffy last night, as you do, and I was struck by, there's some lore in Buffy that is not, they pretty much stick to the main vampire canon, but I guess my wondering is, where did the vampire canon come from? Is it specifically from Dracula? Is there from, oh goodness, sorry, my hair is like, I just blow dried my hair, and it's getting humid down here, so it's getting uncomfortable. But yeah, so I have some questions just about just generally what's happening. What happened to make vampires the way they are. So I'm not going to go into vampire.com. That's not going to be a useful thing. Vampires. Vampire. A creature from folklore that subsists by feeding on the vital essence, generally in the form of blood, of the living. In European folklore, vampires are undead creatures that often visited loved ones and caused mischief or deaths in the neighborhoods they inhabited while they were alive. My dog has come back. Hello. Hello. Do you want to see the world? Do you want the world to see you today? She's wiggling. She's so good when she wiggles. You want the world to see you today? You want the world to see you? Oh. You want the world to see you? No, she did not want the world to see her. Okay. So, the Old English Dictionary states the first appearance of the English word vampire as vampire, the Y, in English from 1734. Okay, that's later than I would expect. In a travelogue titled Travels of Three English Gentlemen, published in the Harleian Miscellany, 1745. Interesting. Vampires had already been discussed in French and German literature. After Austria gained control of northern Serbia and Oltenia with the Treaty of Pastorowitz in 1718, didn't know that was a thing, officials noted the local practice of exhuming bodies and killing vampires. Interesting. So it seems to be the word was originally Serbian Cyrillic and then went into German, which then translated it into French and then English. So Eastern European thing, which isn't completely shocking. The notion of vampirism has existed for millennia, The cultures such as the Mesopotamians, Hebrews, ancient Greeks, Manipuri, and Romans had tales of demons and spirits, which are considered precursors to modern vampires. Despite the occurrence of vampiric creatures in these ancient civilizations, the folklore for the entity known today as the vampire originates almost exclusively from early 18th century southeastern Europe. Interesting. And verbal traditions of many ethnic groups of the region were recorded and published. Cool. In most cases, vampires are revenants of evil beings, suicide victims, or witches. But they can also be created by a malevolent spirit possessing a corpse or by being bitten by a vampire. Belief in such legends became so pervasive that in some areas it caused mass hysteria and even public executions of people believed to be vampires. Interesting. So, revenant is interesting to me, primarily, I must admit, because I play God of War. And in the most recent game, or at least I have played the most recent game of God of War. There you have to fight revenants. They're like an enemy that you can fight. A revenant is an animated corpse that is believed to have revived from death to haunt the living. The word revenant is derived from the Old French word revenant, the return. Also, the related French word revenir, meaning to come back. Interesting, but they come, they're all over the place. The term revenant has been used interchangeably with vampire or ghost by folklorists. Weird. They need to be more precise with their language. Just check and make sure nobody's talking in chat. Nobody's talking in chat. I'm surprised. We're only going until 8:30, even though I started late. BT does, because the whole reason I blow dried my hair, which now it doesn't look like I did at all, is because I have to go into work today, and I actually have to be in by a certain time, like a meeting. I haven't had in weeks. What? Anyway, moving on. While some maintain that vampires derive from Eastern European folklore and revenants derive from Western European folklore, many assert that revenant is a generic term for the undead. Straight up and down, it seems like it is. It's just saying, like, the return, those who have returned from the dead. It seems like that much. Never. A long French book, long title of a French book. Just talking about a possible precursor of the revenant legend that appears in Norse mythology called the Draugr. There we go. You can also fight the Draugr in the God of War game. Draugr or Apdragonger. Yeah, which means again walker, meaning one who walks after death. Stories involving the Draugr often involve confrontations with the creature. The Draugr resists intruders to its burial bound, is often immune to conventional weapons, which renders the destruction of its body a dangerous affair to be undertaken by individual heroes. Interesting. So, revenant or references to revenant-like beings in the Caribbean lore, are often referred to as the Sucoyon or Sucreon in Dominica, Trinidadian, and Guadeloupe folklore, also known as Olhig or Loup-garou elsewhere in the Caribbean. I probably pronounced those 0% correctly. Oops. It's just interesting to me how things that are now pretty much they're pretty much tell for fun. Very few people, certainly in the mainstream society, very few people believe in things like vampires. But my dog is so cute. He doesn't even know that. But yeah, most people don't believe in vampires. But they came from a time, like the stories originated in a time when it was easier to be afraid. It was maybe even safer to be afraid of things like vampires than it was to try to be a skeptic, because there wasn't exactly an easy way to get evidence that they didn't exist. And the trifling evidence that they may exist was enough to be like, okay, but then there are certain precautions I should be taking. And which, as I say that, it reminds me of the way a lot of people look at religion as like, well, if there is a big man in the sky telling me that I need to do these things in order to go to heaven, I should probably, even if he doesn't exist, I should probably just follow him just in case he exists. Which, for the record, is not my thought on at least modern Christianity, but we can discuss that a different time. Not wondering Wednesday material. Unless you're wondering about it. Yeah. So I don't know if there's more I'm wondering about vampires, except I do want to know where it's very interesting to me how connected to the church they are. Apotropaics, items able to ward off weapons, are common in vampire folklore. Garlic is a common example. A branch of wild rose and hawthorn are said to harm vampires, and in Europe, sprinkling mustard seeds on the roof of a house was said to keep them away. Interesting. And then other items include sacred items like crucifix, rosary, holy water. Vampires are said to be unable to walk on consecrated grounds, just out of churches or temples, or cross running water. I forgot about the cross running water thing. What did I just... It wasn't in the episode of Buffy, it was like a podcast episode or something again. Mirrors have been used to ward off vampires when placed facing outwards on a door. In some cultures, vampires do not have a reflection and sometimes do not cast a shadow, perhaps as a manifestation of the vampire's lack of a soul. This attribute is not universal. The Greek vampire is capable of both reflection and shadow, but is used by Bram Stoker and Dracula and has remained popular with subsequent authors and filmmakers. See, it's just interesting to me the transition from like society and culture believes this to now we make movies about it. Like it's nothing new necessarily. It's just an interesting way to look at the way society has changed. And I wonder where that change started. If it started with like, you know, the Enlightenment or whatever, and our fascination with science and scientific method and studying phenomena, but it stands to reason that there's like, I mean, especially when you watch some movies these days that have to do with some of these more paranormal things, they try to come up with a scientific reason behind them. Well, the one that comes to mind is Natalie Portman's character in Thor says science fiction precursor to science fact. And she talks about how, like, you know, there's a quantum. They use a lot of quantum stuff usually how they talk about it, but there are a lot of, especially sort of B-rated movies that try to, and books that try to, well, Stephanie Meyer is guilty of this. She said something about like vampires have, so humans have 23 chromosomes, vampires have 25, and werewolves have 24. So, you know, not that, whatever, that's not even worth talking about. But, you know, trying to come up with these scientific reasons behind that. And I think that would be definitely, if you're coming from a society that believes in those things, that would be like a first step, right? It's like trying to study them as science. You don't just immediately like, oh, well, animals are real, but vampires aren't. I don't know. It's just my interesting thought. I'm wondering about that. This is a short one today because like I said, I had to get to work and I was running a little late because I had to do the whole showering thing, which is just like, normally I'm happy to shower after I do my video, but I have to leave right now to go to work. So, um, just weird. People are asking a lot of things. It's take a lot of time. I could be crossing animals. One of these days I'm gonna cross animals for you guys. I'm gonna show you. Not cross my hands. This isn't animals crossing. This is just me trying to show you my invisible Nintendo Switch. I can't show you because I don't have it. Yeah. Make good choices. Go to drugs. Stay in school. Take pictures. Well, support local business. How about that? Do that.